All right, welcome in everyone. If you don't know me, I am Jamie, and I'm excited to hang out with you here this afternoon and talk you through some of our latest updates to Talkatoo. Our mission is to give back veterinary professionals some time in their day, and I'm very excited to walk you through some of the newest stuff that can help us achieve that mission. The intended audience for today's webinar is somewhat of an intermediate or advanced user. So if you're totally brand new to Talkatoo or you're not using it yet, if you're overwhelmed by this at all in any way, you probably would get more value out of a one-on-one training with us, which I'll make sure to include in my wrap-up email if you've RSVP'd to this session. Super happy to have you here today. The agenda for today will include an overview of some changes to our default templates for using AutoSoap, how to use find and replace, how to regenerate notes using My Words, and we are actually super blessed to have a special guest on the call today as well. So we'll get a bit of a demonstration from one of our power users. More to come on that, a bit of an introduction coming later on. And then we'll talk a little bit about call summaries. There is a bit of an update to call summaries, some added functionality there. And then we'll wrap up with a quick note on a new plan type that's available for Talkatoo, as well as wrap up with a prize draw at the very end, which is a new twist to my webinar. So hang on till the end, and you may just win some new Apple AirPods. So that will be fun. So let's go ahead and jump in. And by the way, if it's your first time on the webinar, I keep everybody muted until the end, just to ensure we get through all the content. But feel free to drop a question in the chat or put your hand up if there's a burning question. I'll be sure to get to it. So nothing has changed. Time is still a huge constraint in the practice, and we continue to get pulled around in 100 directions on any given day. We have to leverage technology to get around these hurdles. So we have updated our tools a little more this month, allowing you to use Talkatoo, of course, from anywhere. I won't bore you with how to create AutoSoap notes with Talkatoo. Hopefully you're doing this already. But I do want to dive into some new updates that allow you to tailor your notes a little more, tailor the results, the way they're styled. And so to leverage our new customizations on our default templates, it starts with our web app. So you can log into talkatoo.com with your account, of course, to jump into your note inbox. And if you're a frequent user of the desktop app, fun fact, if you want to get to our website quickly, you can actually click up here and that will launch open our web app right away. And so I'm super interested to show you some new options that are available in our settings page. If you're using AutoSoap right now, maybe you're using our default soap option primarily, you'll find this really interesting. So when you jump into the settings page, in the templates section, which is where you can adjust your default templates that come with your Talkatoo account, there are some new changes here. So the first one I want to point out is on our default soap option. And you can now anonymize the patient name. So we've had some requests to be able to do that rather than having the name itself. Instead, some folks want to use just patient as the input there. So that's a checkbox, super duper simple. You can turn that on or off anytime. And then as you move further down into the subjective section, you'll notice there's a new checkbox here for subsections. So if you've been using the SOAP template up until now, and maybe you've had it set up as a paragraph or as bullet points, or maybe you've been using a custom note template, now circumnavigating this entirely, you might want to potentially check out our default templates once again, because we've added in a bunch of new functionality here. So subsections would write that portion out with various headings, including presenting complaint, history, diet, medications, supplements, etc. So just check that on if you want to see what that can do in your notes. Additionally, there are a few other things in the objective portion here in our settings page. The new buttons here include the ability to omit the default normals that haven't been mentioned. Bit of an edge case. If you're familiar with Simple Soap at all, this default template here, this one would only list out what you mentioned during the recording, either in a paragraph, numbered list, or bullet points. You can now achieve that same outcome here on our default soap by checking omit default normals. This is helpful for some specific pins if you have individual rows that you need to type into for each body system for the exam. It can be helpful to turn this on. A few other checkboxes that you'll notice are new: bold abnormals. So this has also been heavily requested. Just check that off if you want your abnormal findings bolded. You've been able to do that in the past with a custom note, but now it's super duper easy with our basic soap option. All of the same customizations still apply here with our default soap template. So you could relabel the names or change the normals, of course. As you get down here to the assessment, you may have noticed that you've been using Talkatoo for a while. You've just been using the default options. The assessment portion has actually been updated over time. And so we've got a lot of feedback over the months of these updates. Some people like the new one, the old one, the one from the past. So now what we've done is offered 3 flavors of the assessment, and each of these have a pretty great description underneath them. But to keep it simple, we basically have a very detailed version, a middle version, and then of course a pretty concise version for your assessment. So you can pick your preferred flavor, and then you can also apply the subsections checkbox if you'd like, and that would break it up into a problem list, into differentials, into a diagnosis section, and you can still keep your preferred formatting there, whether it's bullets, numbered, or paragraph. Last thing I'll point out here on our soap, default soap, is subsections for plan. And so this would break your plan section up into, for example, diagnostics or vaccines. And just to give you a bit of a visual aid here, looking at the subjective portion, you can see how it's been broken up into various categories. Same with my plan section here. So subheadings now exist with our default soap option that comes with your Talkatoo. A couple other changes in our settings page when you're looking at default templates. You can hide or show any of these templates. So if you don't need them, hide them. They'll disappear from your list, whether you're recording on the desktop like so, or you're doing it from the mobile app. So that's helpful. And while you're looking here, you'll notice multi-pet has also seen some upgrades, including the same subsection options, bold abnormals, and omission of anything that wasn't mentioned. So check those out. There's one more fun update that I just noticed today, which is the ability to rename your templates. So whatever you want it to show up as in your list, you can just label it. And when you restart the app on your phone, you're going to notice that new name in the list. So I thought that was kind of cool. Awesome. So I want to take you back into the note inbox here. I want to show you something that not everybody knows about. If you're trying some of these new settings, a great way to see the effect would be to regenerate your note. So when you're viewing a note in your inbox in our web app, you can change the option retroactively. So just pick your option here that you use, and then you can select the new thing you want to try out, and then you can hit the regenerate button. And doing that will let you test out these new changes that you've applied, and it'll help you get a feel for what you want to keep, especially if you're looking at the assessment options or the bold abnormals. And so without having to record an entire new note, regenerating your note can be very helpful. Cool. So what else can I show you here in the web app? Well, good question. The find and replace button, if you haven't seen it before, lives right above the transcript bar here on your notes. So find and replace, it allows you to find a mistake, and it will identify it multiple times, and then you can replace it once and get a really quick edit in the note. If you're doing any editing in the web app, but you tend to retrieve the notes from our desktop app, if you've made changes like a regeneration or find and replace or any type edits, like with your keyboard, it's helpful to refresh rather your note inbox on the desktop app. So click that refresh icon. That way, when you're actually grabbing that note, if you retrieve from the desktop app, you're grabbing that updated version. Awesome. So those are a couple new changes to default templates. And I want to take a moment now to introduce a good friend of mine, Dr. Haley Cotter, who is based in Holt, Michigan at Caring Animal Hospital. They've had Talkatoo for, I think, about 8 months, maybe 9 months now, coming up on a year, something like that. Yeah. And Haley's been super generous to jump on here. She has a variety of custom notes, so separate from the default templates that we were just looking at, and they're super interesting. I wanted to get her to give us a little walkthrough of how kind of she uses those, as well as how they use the assistant mode of Talkatoo, which is of course tucked in your desktop app and the mobile app, and it lives just over here. And the assistant allows you to leverage AI, leverage dictation in a different way. Oftentimes when you're outside of the exam room, maybe editing those SOAPs you've already generated or creating new types of documents that's going into your practice management system. Haley's done a great job at figuring this stuff out. So I'd like to just welcome you, Dr. Cotter, and it looks like you're on mute, so you should be able to unmute there at the bottom, and would love to check in with you. Should be at the...
How to unmute. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yay.
Woo.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Jamie. So like he was saying, I am in Holt, Michigan. I am part owner of a primary care facility here. We've got 3 doctors. 2 of the 3 of us are using Talkatoo. The other one was a recent hire and hasn't jumped on board yet. The other doctor using it she doesn't use it as much as I do. I would say our staff uses it a lot more. They're using the mobile app on their phone for history taking. So I really like some of the updates Jamie was sharing regarding the customization with the SOAP and things like that, because the girls are already using custom notes to do some of those. So the customizations will take some of the work out of that for them. But the way that I use Talkatoo is I bought a little $25 microphone from Amazon, and I have a little outlet in my phone where I plug it in. So that way I don't have to be attached to my phone. And it picks up really, really well, everything I say. And what I do is I record the history. So I start by selecting one of my custom note templates, depending on what type of appointment it is. If it's a sick pet, well pet, that sort of thing, I have different customized notes for each type of appointment, because there's preloaded information I want to go into those medical records. And so I have the girls give me the history while I record. And then I leave it recording when I go into the room. Michigan is not a 2-party consent state as far as recording goes, but we have signs up in the room in case I forget one time to let people know, because I just think it's courteous to say, hey, just so you know, we'll be recording today. It also, in my opinion, helps their behavior a little bit if they're feeling a little spicy that day. And so I just record the whole thing. And so what Talkatoo has helped me with is it makes me better at verbalizing not only the physical exam findings, but the plan instead of everything going on in my head. So while I'm doing my physical exam, I'm stating, the normals, the abnormals, things like that. I'm making small talk with the owner, and it's filtering all of that information out. It's really successful in that regard. When I start a medical record for a patient in Talkatoo, I say the patient's name and then I spell the patient's name. There is an update with Talkatoo where there's the find and replace that you can use on the online portal, the inbox, which that's helped a bunch, but I've kind of skipped past that. And in order for me to not have to go through and correct the spelling of Molly, I just say spelled Mollie, and it gets all of that in for me. Then after I'm done recording the physical exam, I'll let it continue to record. I'll say out loud, giving 1 milligram per kilogram of Cerenia sub-Q, giving a 3-year rabies vaccine subcutaneously in the right shoulder, those sorts of things. And so it picks all of that up. And then I walk out of the appointment. If there were any additional treatments like nail trims or anything done that I didn't necessarily bring up, I will say that before I send it over. And so once I send that over, Jamie, how do I share my screen so people can see what mine
Great
looks
question.
like?
Yes. So at the bottom, you'll see a row of icons. You should see a smiley face underneath everybody.
Row of icons.
Yeah. So just look underneath all the little
Yep.
boxes. You should see like the hang up button, a hand, a smiley face. So just to the left of the smiley, there's a box with an arrow pointing up. Do you see that?
I do.
Try clicking there. Try clicking entire screen at the top right.
Entire screen. Oh my gosh, you're so good at this.
Click the picture of your screen and then click share.
I can't
Nailed it.
imagine how many times you had to walk people through that because
Nailed
you every step of the
Most
way.
people on the call probably probably gone through that. So if you were to, just forget about the meeting for a moment. Now you're in the zone.
Beautiful. So what I have in here, Loki is my last medical record of the day. This I recorded on my phone with my little microphone using a custom note. And so Loki, a 5-year-old, 11-month German Shepherd, and then I do the spelling of how his name, they give me the history. You can see there's some small talk in there. I give physical exam findings. I say the diagnostic results that I want, and the information that I get spits out like this. And so I have a template for the physical exam that I use where I ask it to either leave those things similar to the SOAP that Talkatoo has pre-made for us. So leave the things that I either don't mention or I confirm that they're normal, and then adjust the things that are abnormal. And so he was in for an ear recheck today. So you can see bilateral scarring on ear pinna, diagnostic results. The ear cytology was negative. I've got a problem list. Treatment, we can discontinue the Animax he was on. And then did they decline anything? What did we talk about? Are there instructions to go home? So I could refine this a little more because there's a little bit of repetitive information here. It spelled Animex wrong. So this is something where I would go through, just read that through, delete the redundant information really quick. I always put a signature on all of my custom notes. So I say my name and then I make sure the record says this was recorded with dictation software, excuse any spelling or grammatical errors, because inevitably I'm going to forget to catch something and I'm going to look like a goofball. The girls find things all the time and tell me.
Beautiful. This is so cool, Dr. Cotter, and just to help some people along who might not be using a custom note. Obviously, this looks a bit different than our default templates I was showing you earlier. So Dr. Cotter has set this up as well as a custom note, which allows her to get that custom signature at the bottom and get some of those sections filled out that you might not see in the default SOAP, for example.
Yes, thank you. And I keep in my inbox all the time this running list of little templates. So I just have a normal physical exam. If I need to copy and paste something quick, And these are the sorts of prompts that I use to get the records that I want. So use the information provided to write a formal and detailed medical record for ... include physical exam, diagnostic interpretation, treatments. So that is the appointment template for the one that I just showed you, essentially. I've got a routine wellness template, and these are all what I have saved in my custom notes. The thing I like about custom notes is that it gives you the original prompt, and then you can give it a secondary prompt, and that's how I kind of get the editing that I personally like out of it. So the custom notes list that I have currently, I've got appointment summary, so that's like my unwell pet. I've got a blood work summary for when I'm doing blood work callbacks. Well, don't put it like that. Well, there we go. So for example, this one says, write a formal and detailed diagnostic report using current abnormal values, previous values, so that way I can record the trending, and then I give the reference range, and then separate out, and I give it the different blood work profiles that I'm frequently calling, and I have an additional testing. I also input summaries. So these are the kidney values. This is what an abnormal could mean. These are the liver values. That's what an abnormal can mean. And I break it all down. And then at the very, 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 very bottom, this is my secondary prompt. So exclude tests not mentioned, provide a complete problem list and differentials, include any follow-up testing, medications, and recheck recommended. And then note the record was written using the dictation service, because that's what I put at the end of everything. So if we go back to my home screen, these were guinea pigs that I just did blood work callbacks on. And these are what it came out to. So please note the medical record has been updated. Chemistry, it gives me my current value. This is the first time I ever ran blood work on these guinea pigs. And then it gives me the reference range and what it could mean. And then at the bottom, my recommendations, any additional testing. I use the same prompt for both of them, but inevitably they don't always come out looking exactly the same. And so if that is something that you're getting consistently and you want it to only come out in a specific format, that secondary note in the custom notes is kind of where I put the edits. The first section of the custom notes I use to get the information there that I want. And then the second one I use is to organize and edit the information that I have available. And that's what I've been most successful with. And so I didn't even ask it to edit it this way with the bold and the bullet points. It just does that all by itself. And that's definitely time saving for me. And again, like it'll pull up the abnormal values and it gives a little blurb on like a short differentials list for them.
Amazing. Super, super inspiring to see this kind of result from Talkatoo, because it looks so different than, you know, a default SOAP template that you might dictate into. So I think this inspires a lot of people on the call, or who are watching the call. And so there is a lot you can do with the custom note portion. And Dr. Carter, you've definitely got it figured out. So thank you for showing us that. I'd love to hear from you as well, maybe just quickly, like if you could touch on how you use the assistant sometimes versus using the notes on your phone, and like what's the use case and when do you decide which one to use?
So what I use the assistant, I generally don't like recording straight into the assistant things that are going to be really long. So for me, I like to just leave the recording playing while I'm in the room instead of coming back to the computer and just saying the specific information about the appointment that I want in the record, just because I find it less time consuming to record it all, let Talkatoo filter it out. But if there is something that's going to be maybe 2 minutes or less of me talking, I will do that directly into the assistant, and I'll do that into my phone with the assistant on the app, or I'll do it with my microphone into my computer. And what I use for that most commonly would be like diagnostic reports. So if I am saying, write me a formal and detailed radiology report for Molly using the following information. And then I say 3-view thoracic x-rays were provided. These are my findings. And then I say, make sure the record includes findings, interpretation, conclusion, recommendations. The same way as if you were to request a formal radiology report from a radiologist, those are kind of the section headers that you're going to be getting in your report. And so that's the way that I like mine to look. But I have to ask for those specific things.
Amazing. So for those longer consults, when there's a lot of audio involved, you're using the notes portion. When it's a quick snippet you're looking to create, maybe you're editing one of the notes you've already generated, you might jump into the assistant and prompt it a little bit to create those extra pieces or refinements, it sounds like.
Yeah. For the medical records, for example, the one I just showed you for Loki, the Erie check dog, if something came out that I didn't like the way it was as I was editing it, I would use the assistant on my desktop to copy and paste either a portion of the transcript or I'll copy and paste the medical record that it gave to me and ask it for something different directly into the assistant.
Love it. Makes perfect sense. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for showing us that stuff. I find that super duper inspiring. And if you have any questions for Dr. Cotter, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them if you just drop them in the chat. And I can do the same. Perfect. Dr. Cotter, I think what I'll get you to do now, if you just click stop presenting there in the middle.
Here.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And then we're going to switch gears here in just a moment, but one more visual aid just to kind of drive it home. Dr. Cotter sometimes pops open the assistant on their desktop. And like they said, they might take the transcript of that note, or they might take the entire note, and they will tend to drop it in here. So one quick trick for anyone who's not using the assistant that way, you can take anything from our website, whether it's a transcript or a note, and just Control-V your keyboard to dump it into the assistant, and then you can start to prompt it. You can tell it what you want to do or how to make those changes. So super cool use case, Dr. Cotter. I love it. All right, so what do we have next? Couple quick announcements around the call summary. Hopefully everyone on the call is using call summary. It's a pretty neat tool that's built into the mobile app, and it looks like this. Quick PSA on the call summary. Make sure you're not ever on this setting. If you're on an iPhone, you might recognize this. Do not disturb. If you're on an Android, I'm sure there's a similar setting, but make sure you're not on that setting because this won't work if you try to use it. Anyways, heed the warning there, and we'll just jump right into call summary. This is super cool. You set this up by entering in your cell phone number here and your preferred caller ID here. And once you've verified the number, you can dial a client through the Talkatoo app, and it's going to display the caller ID of your practice or whatever number that you plugged in there at the bottom. And when you go to find when you hang up, you'll find a call summary waiting for you in your inbox. And these can be retrieved from the desktop app or the web app, of course. And these show up almost instantly, which is pretty cool. And so call summary has gained a lot of traction over the recent months. One thing that's prevented some people from using call summary, if you are a mobile vet or you don't have a specific business number or caller ID that you want to use, well, then it's tricky to set up because you typically don't want to put your personal number in there. So one other call out for anyone that might be in that boat, we now have a generic number from Talkatoo that you can plug in there, and it will essentially set the caller ID simply as vet clinic. and that might allow you to start using Call Summary if you're in a position where you don't have a number to use. So reach out to us if that sounds like something you want to leverage. And if you need help setting up Call Summary or help with anything, please book a meeting with me. And I'll make sure my meeting link is in the wrap-up email after this call. Would love to help you set that stuff up. One other thing that I want to mention is something that's been highly requested since we introduced Call Summary, which is, how do we get more people using this? How do we get our technicians, our CSRs making these phone calls? So we've recently introduced a new plan type. It's called the Ultimate Plan. If you've signed up for Talkatoo in the past, months ago, this plan is relatively new. And the kicker with the Ultimate Plan is it gives you access to support staff seats, and you get unlimited support staff seats on an Ultimate Plan. This allows you to invite technicians or CSRs to help you leverage AI in your practice. So you can invite as many people as you want. They can use the assistant and they can make phone calls. They can even make notes. This is designed specifically for technicians and CSRs, this type of seat. And you get as many seats as you want. As a support staff user, you get 20 free calls. And after you use your first 20 calls, you get billed at $1 per call moving forward. And if you had, say, 10 technicians and 3 CSRs, they could all make calls throughout your practice and start to leverage AI and these different tools. If you're interested in getting more people in your practice, colleagues of yours, like CSRs or technicians, to start making calls with Talkatoo or using the assistant, we have a special offer for you if you're here on the call or if you've RSVP'd. And I'm going to drop a link in the chat at the end. If you want, you can fill it out and I'll get back to you with a personalized offer to sign up for Ultimate. And you'll get a discount, you'll get a credit back on what you've paid for the year already. So if you're interested, just fill out the form and I'll reach out to you and you can decide if it's something you want to do.